This is The Unhappy Millionaire, where entrepreneurs and other top performers discover how to go beyond the bank balance to create thriving, joyful lives. For more, visit theunhappymillionaire.com. And now, on to the show. So Tal, I'm curious, how familiar are you with Tony Robbins?
Oh, I've listened to Tony Robbins, read a couple of his books, some of his videos early in my life. He was successful, seemed to be very successful. So I thought everything he says must be true, only to learn years later that I should have known better.
I'm going to pick on him for a second, though I don't think he's unusual in this. So I was doing some research for some project and came across something on his website that I forget, like 17 keys to happiness. Some of them were good. Journal. I think journaling is a good practice to have. Some of them, I thought, man, this seems a little bit trivial to go on the keys to happiness, but it was like listen to upbeat music. But then he had one of his recommendations or one of his ideas was the secret to living is giving. And he linked to a big piece he had on why you should serve a cause greater than yourself. And that, my reaction was, this is a disaster. Everybody says this. You hear this everywhere you go, that the real key to finding meaning and purpose in your life is to serve a cause greater than yourself. And of course, Tony made it rhyme. The secret to living is giving. And apparently, if it rhymes, it must be true. I think this is a really pernicious idea that really corrodes a person's ability to love their life. But I also think that there's something plausible in it. There's a reason why people read it and go, yeah, that makes sense. And so I wanted to delve in a little bit on how I think about this issue and how I think you think about this issue, why that idea seems to resonate, but why in reality, it's going to undercut your ability to achieve what you want in life and to enjoy your life.
I brought two, on my way up to my office, I brought two books. One is called Life Gives to the Giver. And the other one is What's in It for Them? And it's kind of interesting. It's by Joe Polish, who runs Genius Network that I participated in. And what's interesting about those books is that the cover is all about them. The inside of it is basically all about you. And the contradiction is glaring at you at the face because it's like, hey, let me tell you a little secret, right? There's a contradiction here, but I'm going to share something that nobody knows. It's all about them. But if you really dive into the book, it's about you. But you should let them think as it's all about them, but it's actually about you. There's some kind of a contradiction, a dark secret. And me as a marketer, I'm going to share that secret with you. So truth is hard. There's something we've been taught very, very early that I think manifests itself in the attacks on business people, the way we think about ourselves as business people. And I don't know if you want to go into this fallacy so early here in the episode because it's a philosophical fallacy. And it manifests itself in this seeming so-called contradiction between taking care of me and living my life and doing what I want to do versus helping others, creating products for other people, thinking and caring about their wants and their needs. Because what is creating a product other than serving other people's needs, right? So there's a moral aspect and there is a product aspect, a market aspect to this so-called contradiction. But we can solve this contradiction. All you have to do, as you do in science, is dig a little deeper. And let's really understand what's going on here to understand that life is about you and about them. And there's no need to rip this apart into two pieces.
Yeah, I'm reminded of, there's a sales trainer I really like, this guy, Jeremy Miner. And he does these big super conferences where he's speaking in front of thousands of people. And he's up on stage and he asks them, why are you in business? And you have a bunch of salespeople. I want to make this money and I want to go on these vacations. I want to buy this kind of house. And they're super excited. He says, wrong. Those answers are all about you. You're in business for your customer. And so then they learn to say that. But the fact is, nobody believes it. But you're tapping into something right. No, I'm in business for myself. But does that put me in conflict with the customers that I want to buy from me?
Yeah.
No, and I think that that's what we'll explore is that your orientation should be for yourself. But what does it mean to be for yourself? What does it mean to pursue your interests? And it's not something that is in conflict with others in any fundamental way. I think part of what makes this kind of view plausible, why it seems right, it's true you can't thrive doing whatever you feel like doing, right? If you're trying to get healthy and your solution is, well, I'll eat whatever I want to eat and I'll work out whenever I want to work out, you're going to fail. We need some kind of, there are facts about what's good for us. And you can't thrive at the expense of other people. If you go around trying to build customers, you are going to lose customers really quickly to the extent that you're able to get them. But I think what is right is that your goal should be the pursuit of your own genuine rational interests, and that when you relate to other people, the principle involved is not, I'm their servant, and then secretly, hopefully I'll get something out of it. It's that you're traders, that I'm trying to provide something of value to them in exchange for something that I value. Like, I want to create the best sales training program, and I want them to pay me the money for that program. I want to build this incredible business based on the fact that it's solving important problems for my customer. It's all about me, but it's about achieving my goals by helping you achieve your goals.
I remember reading The Fountainhead and getting to the famous quote, I don't build in order to have clients. I have clients in order to build. And I had to pause and think about the gravity of what she's saying here. I don't build in order to have clients. I always thought that I'm building in order to have clients. So that's what they teach you. Your success is measured by how many clients and money you make. And she said, that's the wrong orientation. You have clients in order to build. Well, if I have clients in order to build, what am I building? Is what I'm building what I want to build? Why do I want to build that and not something else? Well, that means that I need to know myself and what I'm excited about. In that short sentence, in that beautiful quote, I don't build in order to have clients. I have clients in order to build, by Howard Roark, the architect in The Fountainhead. Everything was revealed. The contradiction was revealed. Now, I want to go a little deeper because I think you have to give some credit to people. They're smart. They want to do good. Everybody wants to do good. I spent 5 years in the Silicon Valley. People want to do good things. But here's the conflict that I think is going on. So when we're young, we're told that you need to care for yourself, but you also need to care for others. But there is a very deep fallacy because the culture and our language clashes those two needs into one irreconcilable conflict. And we do it through a word. And this is why Ayn Rand chose to call her books on ethics The Virtue of Selfishness. And I didn't understand. I was in the camp of like, why is she choosing to fight everyone and on every word? Because you see, what those people are trying to do in business is like, do whatever works. Say that life gives to the giver, so you make money and you succeed. And then in your own house, we can talk about discreetly about the fact that we're all for ourselves. No, you got it wrong. So here's the package deal. The word selfishness takes two core ideas and puts them into one. One is it's okay for you, and it's not okay. You should drive your life to your own well-being and your own self-interest. Make your life the best it could be. Make as much money as you want to make. Build the things you want to build. Be self-oriented. And on the other hand, you live in a society, you live around other people. In order to trade with them, you need to live rationally with them and serve what they want. We took one word, it described two things at once, right? What Ayn Rand called the package deal, right? So there's rationality and irrationality in one word. First, care for yourself, be selfish, but also have disregard to other people's needs. Once we have that word describe both, we cannot separate the dual meaning in it. And the truth lies in understanding that the way to solve this conflict is to separate the core. And here's how to think about it rationally. in order to live my life, which is the central purpose of my being, to make me thrive, and in order to trade with other people, I need to think about their lives. I need to think about what they want. If I want to build something beautiful and I want to sell it to someone, I need to think about what's good for them. And there's a beautiful harmony. This is what capitalism is all about, the win-win. And so this is the win-win. And we have to stop being ashamed about the word selfishness. So we have to stop being ashamed of saying, yes, I want you to pay me money for this amazing things that I've built for myself, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you're true, I found immediately when I switched everything and I start talking to my customers in the win-win, it's like, I'm not here for you, I'm here for me. But I hope you enjoy the fact that I'm here to sell you. They laugh, they smile because they know it's true. They're there for them. And so instead of reading books about what's in it for them, ask first, what's in it for you? Are you building the right thing? And let's stop being ashamed and apologize for doing things for ourselves. I think that's the fallacy. And we just need to go a little deeper to see how we can reconcile and harmonize those two things, which is my self-interest and your self-interest.
Yeah, the best example or the best characterization of what Ayn Rand calls a package deal I heard from somebody whom I don't respect and admire, William Buckley. But he said, you can't take a person who pushes old ladies in the path of a bus and another person who pushes old ladies out of the path of a bus and say that they're the same because they push old ladies around. And that's what a package deal does. It takes something that's superficially similar, but essentially different, and it blends them together. There's something superficially similar between Steve Jobs building Apple because he's passionate about creating these products and he's making billions of dollars and he's following his own vision, and saying, well, he's just like a Bernie Madoff who rips people off and bilks them out of their money because Madoff was enriching himself. You're taking something that's superficially different and equating them. Steve Jobs pursued his actual interests and made other people, customers, investors, his work colleagues, way better off. One thing I was thinking, Tal, as you were talking, I was like, all right, I work for you at the Ayn Rand Institute, right? And I feel like we have a great time working together, but I don't think I would never have the thought of, well, Tal gets up every morning saying, how can I make Don's life better? I'm in it for Don. I've got to do everything I can to let Don thrive and make sure he has the money he needs. And I don't wake up saying every day, how can I serve Tal? How can I make sure that his happiness is achieved? But I think a lot about how I can help you achieve your goals, and you do a lot to help me achieve mine because our interests are aligned, right? Like we're both invested in the same overall goal of the success of this organization, but for self-interested reasons. It's not about serving and sacrificing. And if you came to me and said, Don, this is going to hurt me, this is going to be awful, but I'm going to give you a bunch of money because it's good for you. First of all, I would say I'm being manipulated. And second of all, I said, oh, this is not a good sign for the organization if we have a CEO sacrificing its well-being for its employees. And so I think intuitively and through experience, we all know that what really allows people to thrive is that we're each pursuing our interests and collaborating when those interests align, not serving and sacrificing for each other.
And the funny thing is, if you think about someone like Steve Jobs, who's more admired, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates?
Well, definitely Jobs.
Right. Why? He was the asshole, the guy who really didn't have a family for decades and had a child outside the marriage, never gave anything to philanthropy, couldn't care less about what other people thought, fired people, threw their computer out the window when he thought he needed to hire them and they said no. He was a bastard. A lot of people that worked with him called him. Why is he the hero? And Bill Gates is like, Bill Gates, who's going to give billions, tens of billions of dollars to the Bill Gates Foundation and so on. Why, at the end of the day, Steve Jobs is put on a pedestal that we don't understand what is he standing on? What is that virtue? Right? So everybody can point to his creativity, but it's more than that. It's his moral character that we know is more consistent than a Bill Gates. And we have to acknowledge that. Let's not think one thing and feel another thing. Let's not feel one thing and think another thing. Let's not hide in our chambers talking about how selfish we are, and outside when we're on the stage talk about how unselfish we are. Why do that? That sabotages your self-esteem and it lies to everyone else. Say it as it is. I'm here for me. I don't have any duty to serve your life. I have my only duty is to serve mine. I don't build for you. I build it for me. And in the process of building something great, building a SpaceX or whatever that is, I'm doing it because I'm interested in going to Mars. If you enjoyed, great, come on board. If not, go buy somewhere else. But if we had that attitude with businessmen and women, if we had this going out of the closet of saying, I'm a selfish person, I live for me, for my own sake, and not for you. You do the same, and we'll trade as traders and as in win-win interactions and transactions. The world will be heaven on earth. Not Tony Robbins, who's basically selling you a lie.
The Gates example is interesting, though, because I think if you asked people who's more admirable, not who do they actually admire, but who's more admirable, I think they would say Gates, post Microsoft, when he became a philanthropist. But people aren't inspired to emulate Bill Gates. I've met a lot of people, businessmen, artists, entrepreneurs, songwriters, who are inspired to act. It actually shapes how they live looking at Steve Jobs, because he had this purpose and passion for beauty and innovation. But we feel that we're supposed to admire a Gates for giving away. Now, I admire Bill Gates enormously, but not because he gave things away. It's because he created Microsoft and pioneered this idea of a computer on every desktop and did it. And that is such an audacious goal back in the late 70s to say everybody's going to have a computer in their home. That is a visionary idea, and he was one of the central figures in making that real, and that is an enormous achievement, and he was hated for it. The government went after him. I remember watching the South Park movie when it came out in movie theaters. This is in, I think, 99, the height of Microsoft. Maybe it was 2000. And there's a scene where Bill Gates, a cartoon version of Bill Gates, comes in, and he gets shot in the head. And the whole theater erupted in applause. Now, how often do you hear a theater erupt in applause? But it was for seeing this guy gunned down. And what was his sin? In the end, it was that he made a lot of money. And no, that's self-interested. We can't stand for it. The part of what is so corrupt about this idea of that what's good is serving a cause greater than yourself, that the secret to living and giving is that it teaches us to lie to ourselves and others about our motivations. But more deeply, it stops us from really thinking what does it take to make a lot of money? What goes into that? How does that actually impact human lives? Because I will tell you, Bill Gates did a lot more for other people by creating Microsoft than he did by giving away his fortune. Now, there's some aspects of his philanthropy I admire in the sense that a lot of philanthropists, really all they care about is the sacrifice. They just want to give away money so that they can feel good about themselves. Yes, I'm doing my duty. I think Gates is really genuinely interested in using his wealth to solve problems. He's approaching it like a businessman. It's still the idea that that's what makes him good is the sacrifice. It's the doing something not for himself. That is a tragedy. No, what makes you good is making the best life possible for yourself.
And to anyone who's listening, the whole process, and I agree with about Gates, by the way, I think he's really a productive genius. Only if his moral compass was a little more aligned to reality, I think he'd be a much happier person, by the way. But for everyone listening, the whole cycle, this virtuous cycle of the harmonization between your well-being and your customers' well-being to serve yourself and serve others' needs in the process of serving yourself starts with, do you know what you want? Do you know who you are? Do you know what are the things that you want to create? And that's the seed that from which everything else needs to grow and be aligned to. And unfortunately, because of that fallacy, because your mother told you, don't be selfish, you never really thought about yourself. You never put yourself in the center. You never invested the hours and hours of introspection of what do I love? What do I want? What am I attracted to? And you never thought that that is the most important thing in the world. I wasted 20 years of my life chasing what was supposed to be success, the money and the fame and the title and the prestige. I was managing over $1 billion of business myself as a VP. And it didn't bring me happiness. And the contradiction here is something that every businessman and women need to understand. Happiness comes from you knowing what you want and who you are through your creative pursuits. And that is the seed that leads to the other thing. And there's, again, I'll use the word again, there's a harmony between what you want to create and what other people need from you in a way. We are all anxious to get your creations and to read your books and to drive your cars and to fly your airplanes and to use your phones, whatever you want to create. We want it. And do us a favor, be selfish. Think about yourself and we'll enjoy your selfishness in the best possible way.
Well, and there's something really important that I want to stress in what you just said, Tal, because this is what I think a lot of people really get wrong. When they hear serve a cause greater than yourself, they think about living their best lives, and then they give a little money to charity or they help out a friend who's struggling or something. That's not what it means. There's a movement called effective altruism. It was inspired by a philosopher, Peter Singer, arguably the most famous living philosopher. And it's been in the news a lot lately. And they're explicit. You should, to orient yourself around the goal of serving a cause greater than yourself. What it really means to adopt Tony's formula of the secret to living is giving. You shouldn't think about what you would love to do for your career. They counsel people, don't do what you love to do, what will help the most other people. And so Peter Singer in his book on effective altruism tells the story of this promising philosophy student who could have been a great philosopher. And yet under the influence of effective altruism, do you know what he did? And Singer's celebrating this. The kid goes off to Wall Street so that he can make a lot of money doing something that he has no interest in doing because then he'll have more to give away.
Yeah.
Now that's sacrificing money, but that's not the most tragic part. It's that he sacrificed the thing he loved to do, the thing that would have filled his life with meaning and really challenged him, brought out the best in him. No, it turned him into a vessel for other people's sacrifices. And that's why the way I think about it is self-sacrifice really means self-sabotage. And anybody who tells you you can be happy by giving up the values that make you happy, they're selling poison. And the only reason that anybody buys it is because of this package deal. They think the only alternative is to be a Bernie Madoff, or if not an actual criminal, just a jerk who doesn't care about anything or anybody. And that's the big lie. The big lie is that your choice is being a Peter Singer disciple who surrenders what you want for life, or being a jerk. And the reality is that no, you can be a Howard Roark or a Steve Jobs. You can be somebody who devotes yourself to something that you're passionate about and fills and forms strong bonds with other people pursuing their own happiness and their own interests.
This idea, Rick, to have I think in billions of lives, if you think of the most corrupt idea ever conceived, it's this idea. Really, we go back to the theme of this episode. It's really all about you. Your life is the standard. You should think about what you can make of it. I hope you followed the logic of how you take those package deal and you separate it. Because again, it is complicated. It's not that simple. But moral clarity is, I think, the way to start understanding how to align and harmonize the needs, because it happens within a family, not just in business. What I want, what my spouse want, what my kids want, what other people need for me that I really care, my employees, my board of directors, everyone. And I understand who they are. And I look at them the way I look at myself. They're all independent human beings with our own view of the world, with our own hierarchy of values. I try to understand their hierarchy of values. I try to trade with them value for value. And if our values clash to the point where we cannot reconcile, I say goodbye. I don't waste time. And it brings you happiness, it brings you joy, and it brings the people who enjoy your creations joy as well. And so instead of losing, let's win-win.
And notice there's something really incoherent about the other view. If you don't have the right to pursue your happiness, why in the world do other people have the right to be happy as a result of your sacrifices?
Ayn Rand called it Christmas gifts. Everybody gives to the other people. Who's the ultimate receiver? We don't know.
Yeah, it's an exchange of Christmas presents that nobody wants, right? It's an incoherent position that everybody's a servant, but nobody's to be served. And part of what Ayn Rand exposes is that there's a deeper perspective on this idea of serve a cause greater than yourself that really is even more corrupt. And that is, there are some people who are allowed to collect sacrifices. There are some people who are to be the served. And who is it? It's the people who lack value. If you have something to offer, if you've created something, if you're productive, if you're energetic, if you go out there and you're purposeful and you can actually achieve something in reality, then your job is to sacrifice and serve. If you've achieved nothing, if you can't support yourself, let alone take care of your family and your kids, if you don't have the character to pull yourself out of bed in the morning, that lack, that failure, that entitles you to other people's service and sacrifices. And so in the end, it's not preaching that all of us will find meaning in serving a cause greater than ourselves. What it's really saying is what you should do is serve people who refuse to lift one finger in their own interests, who refuse to make something of their lives. And so there's a deep, deep injustice. And part of the tragedy, I think, and you saw this with Gates, is that most people don't do this, right? Most people don't go around serving and sacrificing as a way of life. What they do instead is they try to make something of their lives and they feel guilty about it. They feel like, oh man, I made a lot of money, or I have this great job, or I have these great relationships, but am I a good person? Isn't that selfish? I remember years ago, I was talking to the father of a girl I was dating, and he came from a very poor family in a very poor part of Kentucky. And he didn't become a billionaire, but he did well for himself. And I asked him, I said, did the people around you cheer you on? Like when you go back home, do they go, wow, like you rose out of this place and did something in your life? That's awesome. And he said, you know what? No, they really didn't. There was a real resentment. Like I thought they had this attitude, like I thought I was better than them, which I didn't. But he was a reminder that they could have achieved something like he achieved. Their excuses for why they didn't achieve didn't hold up. And so there was a real resentment and envy. And this whole idea of service and self-sacrifice, the idea that altruism is good and that pursuing your interests is bad, what it really in the end, I think, is intended to do is provide a moral justification for that resentment. It says that you can feel superior because you've achieved nothing, and the people who've achieved something now owe you. And there's nothing more corrupt than that.
It's reversal of value. It's a philosophy for death, because the worse you are, the better, the more moral you are. And the poor shall inherit the world and things like that. You can find it in every religion. There's nothing horrible, but it's true that you can control people through their guilt. So what you do, the evil formula here, is you point their moral compass towards something that they can never achieve. And when they fail, they feel guilty, and you capitalize on that. That's such an evil formula. That's how I feel. I lived many years of my life. That's what I felt most of the people around me in the Silicon Valley were trapped in. They're good people, productive people with a moral compass that points in a direction that they can never achieve. And they feel guilty. And that guilt is what, in a way, sponsors or funds the evil altruistic philosophies of a Peter Singer. of Mother Teresa, of Christianity and Judaism and Zen Buddhism. On everything you go, it's just pointing to an impossible moral standard, and the result is guilt. And we love that you feel guilty. That's how we make you pay, come to church every Sunday, repent, and pay us some money.
Yeah, and it's impossible because the answer to the question is, well, wait, how much am I supposed to sacrifice? When can I pursue my interests?
Well,
How
look
much more?
look at the guy on the cross, right? Look at Isaac, right? Sacrificing his son. Look at the moral ideals. That's the answer. Everything.
Yeah. And usually they'll hide the everything though. And the answer will just be more.
Well, you're not like him, so
Yeah.
more than what you're giving.
I want to end though, not on a negative, though I think it was important to expose the negative. I want to end in the positive. So we've been talking about, no, you should proudly embrace your desire to pursue achieve the best life you can for yourself. But as I said at the beginning, that doesn't mean do whatever you feel like doing. There's still a demanding, or not still, there is a demanding moral ideal that a person interested in their own interests has to live up to, has to embrace, has to realize. And this is, if I was trying to give the best explanation of why people find this idea of serving a cause greater than themselves inspiring, is because you do want to live for something. You do want to have a vision of something grand and great and noble to aspire to. And that is depiction of what it actually means to realize your own interests. To me, this is why Ayn Rand is so powerful, is that what you get are heroic characters that you want. I want to be like Howard Roark. I want to be like Dagny Taggart. But they're heroes who are characterized by the courageous pursuit of their own interests. And I'm curious how you think about that positive vision and what it demands of a person.
I think that the morality of a producer is a more demanding morality. I think this is why not a lot of people, they choose to not live up to that type of morality. Steve Jobs, if in a way, pushed himself and his way of life and his thinking about life to that direction. And it was hard. I can tell you, I regard myself as the happiest I can be. I wake up every day and I can't think about a better day that is going to be in front of me. And I think about the fact that it's a result of so much work, aggregated work that I've done over the years to first and foremost do the work of understanding who I am, what is truly interesting to me. I think that's the most strategic question that most people don't find the time to answer. Who am I? What do I want? This is the most important thing. Before my wife, before my kids, before anyone else, who am I? What do I want? Right? And by the way, later on today, I'm going to work with 20 young kids, trying to work with them today about before you start your life. Wait a second. Before you start making all kinds of commitments, what are you trying to achieve? What is the vision? And my view is that your goal, this thing we call happiness, we think we call joy, fulfilled life, is a result of having a heroic, nothing less than heroic vision for your life. Writing a story that you are proud to write as you're writing it, not just in retrospect. You are saying, I'm doing everything I can. I'm working as hard as I can. I am pushing as hard and fast as I can towards a vision that I think is grand, nothing less than grand. Now, it doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. It could be whatever you want it to be. I always give the librarians as if librarians are not important. They're very important. If you want to be a librarian, the best librarian, be the best librarian in the world and get interested in what you're interested in. Learn as much as you can. Get closer to the people who manifest the knowledge and the expertise that you want to learn, and guide your life towards the most self-expression in relationships as well. Find the person that is the most amazing person you can think of. This builds your self-esteem and it projects self-esteem to the people around you. It elevates you, it elevates everybody else. And that win-win that we can think of as in a monetary transaction between two sides of a business deal is actually a spiritual deal, right? It's a win-win on a spiritual level. This is what Ayn Rand's heroes gave me. It's just the vision. I can be like that guy. I can think like this. And there's nothing wrong about it. It's only a win-win. It's really a gift. I've capitalized on that gift over and over again.
I'm Don Watkins. He's Tal Safani, and this has been The Unhappy Millionaire. Ready to take the next step in your journey? Visit theunhappymillionaire.com, where you can find powerful resources for building a life that you love and details on how you can work with Tal and me.